SD Bullion.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about manipulation of silver. Um, in probably the most recent example, as you kind of alluded to already, on February 29th, we saw silver breaking out past $37, and just about as that happened, Ron Paul appears before Bernanke and pulls out an ounce of silver on national TV, and we saw over the next 30 minutes 225 million ounces of paper silver just absolutely dumped on the market. So I guess, do you think this had more to do with silver breaking out past resistance, or more the symbolism of Ron Paul informing the American people about the wealth preservation of silver?
Well, that's a tough one. It's totally opinion. In my opinion, it was more on a technical level. Whether it was timed with Ron Paul and Dr. Bernanke or not, I don't know. I wouldn't go there, but I'm sure a lot of people believe that. Again, my opinion is probably as valid as anyone else's opinion. Who's right or wrong, I have no idea. What I will say is that the facts are it took place. It took place on that day. Is it a coincidence or not? I'm not sure. But I would say mostly on a technical basis. Once we saw the breakout above the $34 level, I'd actually put out a little film clip, which I do for my members, on how I trade this market and others, but primarily the metals. And it looked like a great setup for going long on a cup and handle formation. I liked the length of it. I liked how silver was reacting. I liked the volume. I liked everything. And sure enough, we got the breakout, but it wasn't just a few days later, and this took place on the open that I saw. It did, go up slightly and then started to get hammered. It was down about $1 when I was able to get in and get out the market, because I've been there too many times watching these massive paper sell-offs that take place. It's very irritating. It's very frustrating, but you also have to anticipate it. If you're going to be in this market at any level, even on the physical level, you've got to anticipate these things are going to take place. And if you're using any leverage whatsoever, even through the mining equities, you've got to anticipate that these things take place. The power really comes from the conviction. If you are able to get your emotions pushed to the side and look at it logically and say, well, no fundamental thing has changed from the day before. This is an opportunity to get back in, and you can take advantage of it. Now, buying in on that day wasn't a good idea. Selling, if you'd been in earlier like I was a good thing on a short-term trade. Didn't disturb any of my long-term holdings. I do both. I invest long-term, and I also trade I like to trade on an intermediate-term basis, but you got to do what the market dictates. I was in just a few days before at a good starting level, and just a few days after that, this was taking place. And again, having the experience I have and seeing how this market has been moved around so many times, it's like, wow, that's enough information for me. I'm out of here.
Since that day, silver's corrected about $7 since then. It's starting to look, to me anyways, like we're nearing a bottom if one wasn't already placed on Thursday. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that it's possible to get it under 30. I still give it probably a 50-50 chance. I made that statement, I don't know, a month or two ago. I know that usually the powers that be that are perpetually short the silver market, they have certain levels I think they like to test, and I think round numbers is very significant in all the commodities. It's not just in the metals markets, it's across the board. 30 is a round number, so there's a lot of psychology built into that. We've seen silver drop below 30 and trade there for several days, but several isn't a long time really. You'd have to look at a chart, and I haven't counted them in a while. There's been two spike lows in the recent history. What I mean in recent history is the last several months, last 6 months. And it's touched at the $26 level. And both instances where it touched at 26 and change, there were very few trades that took place before it came right back up. And I mean right back up, going from like 26, I don't know the exact number, but 26.30, all the way back up into like 28 or 9 by the close of that day. And both times that took place. So I am pretty convinced that it could get under 30. I think that's a massive buying opportunity in all realms, be it physical or leveraged. And I'm prepared for that personally. Again, could I be wrong? You bet. There's lots of cases being made that silver's going to go into the low 20s, and on it goes. I discount that, although it could happen. I think if you look at fundamentally how important silver is, both industrially and investment-wise, and you have people now like Eric Sprott, who has a shelf filing with $1.2 billion remaining that he can trigger fairly easily. Once, and this is my guess, I have no inside information, but I also have spoken to Eric personally, and also through, I know a lot of the people that work at Sprott. And my belief is that under the $30 level, that would be an opportunity not only for a physical silver trust, but maybe someone like Stephen Spicer at Central Fund of Canada, maybe some of the holding companies in Europe like the Zurich Continental Bank. So my take on it is that if we get to a level below 30, and I don't have an exact number, but below 30, that there could be a lot of impetus for companies, holding companies particularly, that like the silver story to go ahead and buy more. And that would probably put a floor under silver.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I spoke with Eric as well, and I kind of get the same sense that he wasn't implementing any buys, but he kind of is ready and waiting that in the wings if he saw something like that. So kind of continuing on with the manipulation. I had an email exchange with Bart Chilton recently, and I guess what are your thoughts about the CFTC ever implementing position limits in silver? It's been about 4 months now since the CFTC voted to implement position limits, and we're still waiting for a definition of the word swap. Bart Chilton advised me that he's hopeful a vote will take place in April, which would put the implementation sometime in June. I guess, do you see the CFTC ever actually enforcing position limits, or is this just all one big dog and pony show?
I wish I knew. Again, it's opinion. If you have a different one, your opinion is as valid as mine is. I've never been a big believer in a top-down edict that really works. I mean, I think personally that the whole system has been corrupted for so long that I put little emphasis into the authorities doing the right thing. And basically the laws are on the books right now that they could implement and take care of these overzealous paper trades, but they haven't. So now they're looking at tweaking or tuning or making another rule or law or mandate that corrects the situation. The problem is, one, that usually the lawyers that are involved will have some kind of weasel clause, and there's one in there already which has to do with legitimate hedging. It's the word legitimate is the key, and the way it's put into practice is so vague that anybody that mines silver or doesn't mine silver, that goes through a bullion bank or not, but primarily that's the chain. It's a major mining entity that's not a primary silver producer but produces a lot of silver, like a BHP as an example. They turn what's called their book over to a bullion bank or banks to manage their silver position, which is minuscule relative to what BHP would mine in base metals. And these guys can play with this, and of course they're called legitimate hedgers. And are they not? To me, a legitimate hedger is someone that would be allowed to hedge up to 1 year's production. I don't think anything beyond that. But there's all kinds of numbers to be thrown around. I think it will take place, but I think it'll be meaningless. Sorry to be of that ilk, but that's what I believe. And you asked me what I think. I think what will take place is probably this 10% rule in the front month only, and that they can trade the back months whatever level they want, which of course can put a lot of pressure on the silver price, because in the futures market the selling can take place a couple months ahead and influence the spot price a great deal. Right now there are limits all over the place for the longs. There just aren't any for the shorts. The longs are only allowed to take 1,500 contracts in the spot month or in a delivery month, which is 7.5 million ounces of silver. Well, why can't the longs? Why do the longs have position limits and the shorts don't? So if they do implement them for the shorts in the spot month or in a delivery month or both, then could it rectify the problem? And I'd say somewhat. But again, the way these legal eagles work, there's probably some exemption somewhere. I like what Bart Chilton said on one of the interviews I listened to, and I listened to most of his, by the way, that, he said the Bruce Springsteen song, prove it all night long. In other words, if you are short in that current month, delivery month, that you have to keep proving that you have the metal to deliver. I like that. Whether or not the new proposed rule change does that and really implements it, it'd be tough. And how do you really take care of it? In other words, if you are short, how do you prove that you have the metal without really physically going into some warehouse somewhere and auditing it? What do you do? Audit it every day to prove it all night long? I like the concept. I'm not sure that it could be implemented in a way that would be easy or transparent enough to really prove that you have the metal. I'm hopeful that this will do some good for the metals markets and the commodities industry as a whole, but I'm not sure that it will.
Yeah, I kind of personally echo your sentiments. I guess switching topics a little bit here. I'm sure you're aware yesterday's big news was the release of the internal documents from MF Global Treasurer Edith O'Brien's email that she wired the $200 million in MF Global client funds to J.P. Morgan directly per John Corzine's direct instructions. And we haven't heard much about it for a while, David, but we also know that about 1.4 million ounces of MF Global clients' silver went missing in the bankruptcy as well. So I just wonder what are your feelings regarding the safety of storing your physical metal in a COMEX licensed vault, or I guess really kind of extending that, really storing it anywhere outside of your personal possession?